Welcome to the journey of an awakening spirit with your host, Kathleen Flanagan. The journey of an awakening spirit is about teaching you a variety of tools that you can use to step into your true self. It is about self-discovery, realizing you are not alone on your journey. We will open the phone lines, give readings, and talk about what our listeners want to know. So please welcome the host of the journey of an awakening spirit, Kathleen Flanagan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Journey of an Awakening Spirit. This is Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and we are streaming on the Bold Brave TV network. Today, I have Kathleen Donnelly Ireland, Israel, here to speak with us today about her adventures on the Camino. But first, we are going to open with sound. We are going to open with love, happiness, and balance. Wisdom on the Camino is an enjoyable book about a 70-year-old young widow's journey and adventures walking the Camino Santiago de Compostela, 500 miles across the northern Spain, solo, where she shared her spiritual philosophies and those she met along the way. Welcome, Kathleen.
So happy to be here, Kathleen.
Well, I'm really excited. You need to tell everybody about this journey. I thought it was fascinating. It was the first time I ever heard about the Camino, and I was telling my hairstylist yesterday about your trip, and she's like, "What's the Camino?" And I told her what it was, and I just really love to dive more into what that journey was, why you chose to do it, what all the different experiences that you went through, especially at your young age.
Well, I was pretty busy before this age, so now was the time, right? Yeah, I was taking care of my husband for quite a few years. Like, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2001. 2001, and he died in 2018. So I was a caregiver for quite a few of those years. After 2010, he was totally disabled. And so I I had to come to grips with the rest of my life. I thought we would be doing things together in our old age, but obviously not. So in 2013, while I was really in the depths of caring for my husband, my friend Judy went on the Camino Santiago. And so I recognized that she was doing something very special for herself. And I just thought, you know what? When Ron's done with his disease, I'm going to do that. And so that's what I did. He died in August of 2018. And by January, I was done with all the paperwork and stuff that you have to do when people die. And I thought, I'm going to get knowledgeable about the Camino, and I'm going to go do it. So I started watching YouTubes and reading everything I could. I bought a book. I went to a lecture at the library. This lady was telling people how to pack light for the Camino. And she asked, it was a full room. She asked the group, how many of you are planning to walk the Camino? And I was the only one that raised my hand.
Wow.
So I think all those other people just wanted to know how to pack light. And So it was really good. And she kind of set me straight about some of the things that I needed to know. And I was very grateful that I had that experience.
How long was this journey?
Well, I'm an old lady and I got a bum foot. So it took me a little longer than other people, maybe. I was on the Camino for 66 days, but
Wow.
I took Holy Week off and I took every Sunday off because I was walking and like it got to be Sunday and I would walk and then I got in and I was really tired, so I just laid down on my bed and then I thought, "Oh yeah, mass." And so I I asked somebody, if there was a pilgrim mass and they said it was over. And so I thought, "Okay, I'm on a holy pilgrimage and I'm not even going to mass on Sunday." So I just decided I would take Sunday off. So on Saturday night, I would get a hotel because you can only stay one night in the albergues, which are um, for the pilgrims. And so I had to get a hotel on Saturday night and stay till Monday and leave Monday.
Okay, I think you just surprised me. I thought that you were on this journey out in the wilderness with a group of people, hiking, carrying all your stuff on a back. That's not what
Yeah.
this is.
Well,
Could you elaborate a little
you
bit
can
more?
do
Because
that.
I didn't know that you stayed in hotels or you could take the day off or
Yeah, I went by
that's new.
myself. I went by myself. So me and my guardian angels, we went. Um, So, yeah, if you go with somebody, you're going to either have to walk fast for them or they're going to have to walk slow for you, or something like that. It's really good to go by yourself. And you meet a lot of people along the way. Every once in a while, I would hook up with somebody and I would walk with them for a couple of days, and then we would have a reason to part, and then I would be on my own again. And like every day, you go into these albergues, and an albergue is a big building that has bunk beds all over the place, and a bathroom, and a kitchen, dining room, something like that. And so you can just stay there one night. You get a pilgrim passport when you first start, and every night you go to the albergue and they fill it out for you so that the next place knows that you are a pilgrim. So they only let pilgrims into the into the albergues. And then you can only spend one night. So if you get sick, or if you, like I wanted to just take Sunday off, you have to get a hotel. The albergues are like 5 to 12 euros a night, and the hotel can be maybe 30 to 100 euros a night. I tried to get the $30 one, 30 euro ones. So yeah, and I had a book, and in the book it uh, told you how far apart things were, so I could, and also the altitude, so I could see, okay, well, tomorrow there's a mountain, maybe I can only walk 12 kilometers tomorrow, or if it's flat, maybe I can walk 15 to 18 kilometers. So you get to know your tools, and then you can figure out what you need to do. And then I called like the day before to the albergue and asked them if I could have a bed, and they wrote my name down. So when I got there and they said, "Sorry, we're full up," I said, "I have a reservation," and then they let me in. So that was good.
What transpired when you were out there, when you weren't talking or walking with anyone? What were things that came up for you during your sojourn on during the week or the days, however that looked for you?
Well, I'm just was so awed at the beauty of the nature in northern Spain. It's so beautiful, and I just like the first day when I left Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, and I actually walked the wrong way for 4 kilometers. So I had to turn back and go. So I added 8 kilometers onto my first day. But yeah, I got in kind of late that day. I remember walking through this beautiful area. The mountains were so high, and I had, well, actually, I was supposed to go over the Pyrenees, but the Pyrenees, there was snow there, and they weren't allowing anybody to go over the Pyrenees. And so that was why I went the wrong way. I kept looking for the turnoff to not go on the Pyrenees, and I missed it. So I went up to the sign that said, Orison is next, and I'm like, oh darn, I'm in the wrong place. I had to go back. And there were a lot of, when you're walking, you see yellow arrows along the way, and that tells you which way to go. So if you're walking along and you see a yellow arrow pointing that way, then you turn that way, And the part that wasn't over the Pyrenees didn't have very many arrows. So it was just like, And I followed somebody, and I thought, well, I hope they know where they're going. But obviously they didn't. Nobody does unless you see an arrow, because unless you've been there before, most people haven't been there before. Anyway, I followed these people, and it turned out to be the right way to go. So, and then it was like I didn't walk over the Pyrenees, but the terrain where I walked, it was just like really tall mountains, and then you go down, and then up another tall mountain and down, and it was just very strenuous. But in between the mountains, I remember one place was so beautiful and green, and there were sheep standing on the side of this really steep field, and they were eating their grass, and their bells were shangling on their necks, and it felt so special, like it was green down below, green up above, green on the sides. It was just green with all these sheep. and
as you're traversing the mountain, you're carrying your backpack with you, correct?
Right. And that's the thing. You got to make your backpack not very heavy, or you're going to be sorry. And so, there's a science of buying clothing that's not heavy. So I used REI and Amazon to get my clothing, and I'd put in, lightweight sun protection shirt, and then I would see what they had. And sometimes if you got weird colors, they were cheaper because people were trying to get rid of their weird colored clothes. So I had kind of weird colored clothes when I was on the Camino, but I didn't care. They were lightweight. So,
well, we're going to take a quick break from our sponsors, and we will continue this when we come back.
All right.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery, or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth. Published by iUniverse, Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and we are streaming on the Bold Brave TV network. And we are talking to Kathleen Donnelly Israel about her adventures on the Camino. Tell me, what was the weather like over there during the 66 days?
Well, I got all the weather, the rain in Spain stays mainly on the plain. So there I was on the plane. But, it was April. And when I started, I finished in June. So there was rain. I remember thinking when I got dressed in the morning, if it was 65 degrees, then I didn't need my jacket on. So I watched the weather quite a bit, and actually on my iPhone I got the weather in Fahrenheit, so it wasn't a mystery to me like it was when I saw the heaters and things. I was like, I don't know what to ask it for. So one thing that I found out is that it's good to have a poncho with arms in it that is made very big in the back to go over your pack. When I first started, I brought a poncho from home, and it just like blew over my head. It wasn't, you need your arms in something to hold it down around you. And but and one of the big problems was where to go to the bathroom on the Camino, because if you drink a lot of coffee at breakfast, you're going to have a problem. So one of the things that I did, they have bars in each town, and on my little book, it told me how far it was between towns, so I could be like, okay, I got to walk 2 miles, and I'll get to a town. They probably have a bar, and then I can go to the restroom. Or else, there's the bushes. And I remember the first time I found a place in the bushes to go, and I went in there, and there was toilet paper everywhere, and I was so horrified that people did that, because I had a bag to put mine in, and then okay, that was the first time. But after a while, when I went in the bushes and I saw all the toilet paper, I thought, oh, well, I guess this is a good place to go. So everybody else found this place too. So in the beginning, I thought maybe I should pick it up because I'm not a litter bug. And then I thought, well, that's pretty disgusting. I better not do that. So anyway, I think that would be a really good thing to do, is to, get a bucket and one of those grabby things and just walk the Camino picking up toilet paper in the bushes. But what I do is I go to a bar, and you have to I felt like I had to get something to use their bathroom. So I would go in and order a coffee con leche and go use their restroom. And then maybe the next time I would go, I would get an agua grande, a big water, because I drank 3 agua grandes a day. And they said you don't have to worry about the water, that they have very good water, except for one day somebody was using some kind of stuff on their fields, and everybody got, Montezuma's revenge. And so even the cows had it. I mean, I was walking out there, and the cows, you could see it all over the place. I'm like, yeah, everybody's got it. So I just started buying the water, at the bar, because I had to go and use the restroom anyway. I had to buy something. And then maybe I would get a melocotán, which is peach juice, or they had this thing called tortilla, and it's a Spanish tortilla, which is like a quiche with potatoes and onions in it, like egg and milk and potatoes and onions. So it was a good thing to eat along the way. I'd buy one to eat there and then have them wrap me up one to take with me. And so that was really good. And and then after a while, I got smart about, what, lady hikers should wear skirts, not pants, because when you have to go in the woods, you have to bare your butt, if you're a girl. And so if you have a skirt on, at least that covers you up. And so at one point, I was ill. And so I had to stay in this place for a while. And so I cut up one of my pairs of pants and made a skirt out of it so I could wear that so I wouldn't have to bare my butt.
What epiphanies did you have as you were walking the Camino?
Yeah, I wanted to say that the epiphanies was the beauty, just the beauty of walking along. The birds are singing. There's just off the wall art all over the place in Spain, just like on the wall, just a beautiful big dove with roses around it on this giant wall. And just noticing how other people live, and just noticing how I felt when I was in certain places. There were certain places that I just felt so comfortable and I hated to leave. I just hated to leave. Remember, it just, you get, especially when I stayed the weekend, and then it would be time to go. And I had gotten into the local culture, and it was hard to leave sometimes, some of those places that were lovely. The epiphanies. So I think the beauty, there were so many just amazing experiences. I remember walking through this field. It was just field, forever field. And it wasn't like beautiful and green like other places. It was kind of arid. I was walking along and I saw in the distance this really cool, it was a ruins. Some of the walls weren't up, but they were spires and arches. It was an ancient building. And I thought, wow, so amazing. Somebody came all the way out here in the middle of nowhere and built this giant, beautiful building. And when I got closer, I saw the sign. It said Convent of St. Alfonso or something like that, or start with an A anyway. And I went in under one of the arches and I heard Irish fairy music. And I was like, whoa, I love Irish fairy music. And then I looked over to the right and there was this guy, this Filipino guy, and he had a kilt on, a green and red plaid kilt and a t-shirt, like just a t-shirt. And he was making egg salad sandwiches for people. And I was just like, oh my goodness, how random is this? And I asked him if he had a restroom, and he pointed over to, there was a trailer with restrooms in it. So I went over there and used it. And then I bought a cup of coffee from him, because I can't eat sandwiches. Bread isn't good for me. So anyway, I bought a cup of coffee, and it was just so lovely just to be there, and just how random it seemed that so it just surprised me. And I was really surprised at my strength that I had. I didn't have to get upset. That's one thing that I really liked about traveling alone, is there's no drama. All you have is yourself, and you're gonna get mad at yourself. I don't think so. So I was in this monastery one time, and And the guy who did the intake didn't tell us when we had to leave. And so I had been so tired because there was so much snoring in the albergues that I hadn't slept in like 5 nights. And so I was talking to this lady, and she said, "Why don't you just sleep in and get up and leave late?" And so that's what I did. And he came in at 8:30, and he like was angry at us for still being there. He forgot to tell us we had to be out by 8:30. And so he was like yelling. I mean, I was in there making breakfast at 8:30, and he came up and started yelling, and everybody else who was eating breakfast kind of left. And I was standing there making my eggs, and I just smiled at him because he was speaking in Spanish. I couldn't really tell what he wanted, but I kind of knew what he wanted. But anyway, so I just smiled at him, and he left. And then he came back. I was making my lunch, and his eyes bugged out, and he started yelling at me again. And I was just like smiling at him, like, I don't know what you're talking about, buddy. And and so he found his English words and told me I was ruining his life because he needed to clean the kitchen and get home to his family. And so I was like, okay, well, so I put my stuff together and went and got my pack, and I was ready to leave. And I tried to go in the restroom, and he was standing in front of the ladies' room with a mop across one side and the broom across the other side, like in an X, like you can't get in. And then he like looked at me and he said, "Out now!" And he pointed to the door. And I was just like, oh gosh. So I was trying to imagine leaving without going to the restroom first. And so I went out the door, and I walked very carefully down the stairs because I was very careful not to fall on my trip at all. I was like, I'm not falling. And this lady in the garden told me, just leave. And I said, well, I don't know how to leave. I don't know where the door out is. So she led me over to where he had taken us in off the street. And there was a restroom in there. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll just use the restroom here and then I'll leave. So I did that. When I came out of the restroom, that man who had been yelling at me was looking at me sheepishly, and he had his hand out in front of him with my medal. I had some medals pinned onto my shirt, and I guess when I grabbed my pack, they flew off or something. Anyway, he had my medals, and he was just handing them to me with his on his hand, and he was like really sad. And one of the medals was missing. So I said, well, what about St. Jerome? And he goes, St. Jerome. And he went out and he was looking in the grass. And I was like, well, that's kind of odd. Anyway, so I started looking in the grass too. We didn't find St. Jerome. So I just told him, well, maybe St. Jerome's for somebody else. And so I left. But I was just really kind of proud of myself for not getting all frustrated and frazzled, It was kind of a God's in charge situation where I was just, doing what I was doing, and, but anyway, that was kind of an interesting situation.
Sounds like it. We're going to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and we are streaming on the Bold Brave TV network. And we have Kathleen Donnelly Israel with us today, talking about her adventures on the Camino. When did you head out how long was it before you went after your husband passed away, I should say? Did you do grieving while you were on the Camino as well? I mean,
I suppose so. You know, when somebody gets Parkinson's disease, you get to do your grieving when they get the disease. You know, it's like, okay, you know, you have to give up your life. I mean, life's not going to be the same. I had to quit my job to take care of my husband. And so I think I did have grief when he died, because I just, you know, even though I had to care for him, and even though he was in a wheelchair, he couldn't walk or talk, I could still like dress him up and take him to the theater. We go to watch Shakespeare plays. We love Shakespeare. And I would take him down to the bay or the ocean and push his wheelchair from Mission Beach to Pacific Beach, you know, and back again. And so he was kind of like my date. And even though he couldn't put his arm around me, I could pick up his arm and put it around me, you know. And so I didn't have that anymore after he died. But the thing about it's called grief and relief, you know. And so that's what I had, grief and relief, heavy on the relief. And so I'm sure I did grieve on the Camino. Actually, when you're a caregiver, your health goes way down. And that's why I got sick a couple of times, because I wasn't strong. I had been walking with my friend on the bay. That's how I knew I could do it, because I walked with Severa. I walked 5 miles 3 days a week. And I thought, well, I can do this. I can walk 5 miles before lunch and 5 miles after lunch, and I can do this. So I wasn't worried about it. But anyway, I know my health was way down. And so I got to, and just being in the beautiful nature was so healing for me. It just lifted my heart, and also not having anybody to answer to. I mean, I got married from my mother's house. I went to Ron's house, and even though we were both young, you know, I was never alone, and I raised 5 kids with my husband. You know, that was a big deal. And then he got sick, and I was, you know, totally committed. So this was, I suppose, it was a gift that I gave to myself to go on the Camino.
I had a friend who, she was a caregiver for her husband, and when he passed away, it was the same thing, the grief and relief that you were talking about. And so she and I went on this Thelma and Louise trip. I had no idea. I had no idea she was that sick when we were on this trip. I knew that she had to recover. Her body was just worn out. And I got all that but to understand the depth of her illness, of just, she had a bladder infection, she just couldn't shake colds. I mean, little things. And it was just about her coming back and regaining her strength as well.
That's
And we
right.
did a lot of talking about, her being that caregiver and what that was. And even though she fell back in love with her husband during
Mhm.
parts of this, it was still very challenging because when we traveled, we were taking everything but the kitchen sink. And I said, you've got to not do this. And she said, I had to do this because I don't know what's going to come up. I said, you can always go to the store and buy something.
Yeah, that's the thing. Spain is not a third world country. You can always go to, they got everything there.
I know, but it was like we were in Arizona, okay? We went to Las Vegas, we went to Arizona, and we came home. And we went to New Mexico. It was so funny. But I wanted to just be a support for her at that point because a lot of people were either telling her to stay home and grieve or get over it. It was one or the other. And this is a 40-some-year marriage. And I felt so bad for her. And it was like, Dee, do whatever you want to do. Just do what you need to do for you. I'm here to listen. I don't need to talk. I don't need to do anything. If you need to just pour out your heart, you're more than welcome to do that. And we ended up doing was we just were like two girls having an adventure, young
Yeah.
girls having an adventure. And that's what she needed to rejuvenate her spirit was, let's go do something different. Let's go do something fun. We had all these adventures that were going on around us. I mean, there was this nasty storm that we were ahead of, and we're just like, oh my God, this storm. And then we go over to Roswell, and then there's this whole story of what happened in Roswell with us. And it was such a
You
gift
need to
that I
write a
gave
book.
I wrote all of that down. I wrote all
Oh,
of that down
good.
because it was an amazing trip that the two of us had done at that period of time. And what was the part that got me the most was on the way back, we stayed in Colorado. We got over Raton Pass and we stayed down in Raton. And we stayed in the hotel and we stayed in the same room that her husband was right before he died. And she said he had fallen and there was blood everywhere, but it was more water. And I said, are you sure you want to be in this room? Because how would I know? And she's telling me this whole story of what happened on that trip, their last trip. Well, John ended up coming in. He put me to sound asleep. He came in and she's telling me this story of John coming in and what's going on and the light and all these things that were going on during this period. And it was amazing because I was talking to John and asking him for something. And even though I didn't see him, Jean was just telling me this most incredible story. And this was just part of her healing process, that he was healthy, he was vibrant. Not that, I mean, she knew all this anyways, but that there was a piece about coming there, like everything, there was closure. That's the word I'm looking for. There
Yeah.
was closure in that by
Um,
here we are with somebody who cared about John and her very, very much. They were a couple of my best friends. I really loved them to death. They were very supportive people, very angelic. John had the sense of humor that just never stopped. He didn't say much, but when he did, you're on the floor laughing because he was just that quick-witted. It was just an enjoyable experience. That's why I was asking if you had things along those ways on the Camino, because that was a spiritual pilgrimage, even if it was just to restore your spirit.
One thing, when I used to travel, I went to school in Switzerland for a couple of summers, and I would go around and find heart-shaped rocks so I could bring them home and show Ron I was thinking about him. And when I was walking along, I just kept seeing heart-shaped rocks. I mean, like
Oh,
every 10th step, I would see a heart-shaped rock. I mean, I couldn't even bend over and pick them all up because there were so many. They were everywhere. I mean, I even saw a dog do shaped like a heart. And,
wow. So he
I
walked
was,
with you. He was
yeah,
walking with you. What a
it
beautiful
was.
story.
Yeah. So, Yeah, he was there. And when I see butterflies, I think he's near also. And so when I would see butterflies, it was very special. Um, they have red poppies along the way in Spain
Mm.
in spring, and I would see little butterflies flying between the red poppies. It was so beautiful,
Oh,
very
that's
special.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That had to warm your heart, being on this little adventure all by yourself and having your husband was there and these gifts that Spirit's giving you of butterflies, which is transformation, because that's a journey of transformation what you were doing. However that
Mhm.
looked in your life when you came back, I don't know. If there was anything, feel free to talk about that. I'd love to know.
It after Ron died, I just had my brother-in-law go through the house and take everything out of the house that reminded me of the illness. But I still had Ron's things in the house, and I would try and get rid of them, and then I felt like I was getting rid of Ron again, you know. So that was really difficult, and I was just surrounded by Ron's stuff in my house, and so it was good to get away from it. Um, and that was very healing to get away from it. I know I have another story that's just so lovely. After I was done with the Camino, I went to Scotland because Ron and I had gone to Scotland, and it was while he was sick, and it was kind of like we took this really long walk, and I was thinking, because at that time every once in a while he couldn't walk anymore, and I was like, this is a little bit dangerous going for this long walk with Ron. But anyway, we did, and I found a heart-shaped rock that was just so perfect. It was amazing. And I picked it up and put it in my pocket, and I heard in my mind, in my imagination, my mind, throw it in the lake, throw the heart rock in the lake. And I was just like, in my mind, I said, no, I need it. I felt like I needed something lovely and wonderful because I was going into this illness with Ron. And I said, I'll bring it back later. And so after he died, I still had that rock in my purse. And I actually had two rocks because I found another perfect heart-shaped rock, and I couldn't remember which was which. So I just brought them both. And so I went out to Aviemore, which is where Lake Eileen is, and I took a walk out where we had walked. And while I was walking, I kind of in my mind said, I'm back. Do you remember me? And the wind started blowing. And I was like, oh,
Mm.
they remember me. And so I walked and walked, and I got to Lake Eileen and the place where I had heard that voice in my head. And I took the two rocks and I threw them in the lake. And then and then the wind died down. And I was like, it was really a completion, and because I didn't need it anymore because I was okay now, you know.
Oh,
So
what a beautiful story. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, Radio show host and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and we are streaming on the Bold Brave TV. And I have Kathleen Donnelly Israel with us. We are getting ready to wind down the show. How can people get a hold of you? And I know you have a book out there.
Right. My website is wisdomonthecamino.com. My book is Wisdom on the Camino, A Spiritual Journey, Sharing Forgiveness and Possibilities to Inspire the Rest of Your Life. And I just want to tell everybody that I have a gift with purchase with the across from the table of contents. It says, read this first. And you can opt in to see my pictures. So everybody was like, oh, Kathleen, you got to share your pictures. And I was like, yeah, if I put my pictures in the book, it'll be $50 and nobody will buy it. So I made a website and portfolios and galleries. And you can, when you read chapter 1, you can see the pictures of chapter 1 and chapter 2, all the chapters. And so that's my gift. Sorry, you have to double opt in, but that's just the way the world is now. So
that's true.
Enjoy pictures.
What would be the one thing you would tell our listeners that helped you the most, or advanced you where you are, or changed your mindset? What would be the one thing that you would recommend to the listeners if they're wanting to do something like this or something different? What words of encouragement can you give them to help them get over the fear?
I never had fear because I have my guardian angels, and they just, I know them personally. They came with me. The Camino isn't scary. It's difficult in some areas, but walking is a low-tech skill, one foot in front of the other, and you can just prepare yourself ahead of time. There's help for things. I'm thinking if they wanted to do something else besides the Camino, there's all kinds of help on YouTube for everything, for gosh sakes. But that's what I used, the YouTube, to find out how to do the Camino. And so I don't think, if you want to do something, you need to just do it. Because what if you fail? It's better to try something and fail than to not try something. If you don't try, it's 100%, it's not going to work. So you have to try. And you can have a lot of fun along the way. On the way over there, I stayed in Paris for a week so I wouldn't have jet lag when I started. And that was lovely. I just went and took tours of this, that, and the other thing all day long. And I did an art experience in Paris and stuff. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do. And there, it's not expensive to walk the Camino. A lot of the places are, just donation. You can find the little books tell you how much it costs to stay in the different places. So you can stay in a cheap place if you need to. And the people there, they're all searching people too. And the walking the Camino is a walking meditation. So you can just do it. One prayer that I always say when I don't know what to do, if I can't fix something, I have a prayer, and the prayer is, "Dear God, please make everything turn out okay." And then you let God make everything turn out okay. And then you can say, "Dear God, thank you for making everything turn out okay." I mean, even before it turns out okay, it's incredible. That prayer will just give you miracles. And it's really important not to worry. What worrying is? Worrying is making up a sad story and then believing in it and going with it. It's better to make up a good story. So when you think of what you could possibly worry about, you need to change your mind and because the sad story isn't true anyway. It's not true. You could make up a good story and then put a good spin on what you're doing with your own imagination.
I love that. That is a perfect way to end the show. That's so beautifully spoken of change the story. I love it. I love that. Just change the story to something positive, because we need that to do. We need to do that for ourselves. There's enough doom and
It's
gloom out
totally
there in the
possible.
world. I know. There's
Yeah.
enough doom and gloom out there. Why not create a beautiful life for yourself, even if it's just in your mind? Because what's going to happen? You might create it. You just might
Yeah,
create that life
absolutely.
for yourself.
We
Well, I want to thank
create
you.
grace around us, and it's a
Yes.
high vibration, and we can live
Yes.
in that high vibration. Mhm.
Yes, we can. Well, I want to thank you so much, Kathleen, for coming on the show today. What an adventure that you've taken on. And I know that you've done a few more trips, taken a few more hikes on. And I really do appreciate that you give hope for people as we mature, that just because we're a certain age, it's just a number. And you've proven that. It's just a number. It's just a number. Your
It's
spirit
just
is
a
still
number.
young. Your spirit still wants to learn. It still wants to grow and evolve. And you did a perfect demonstration of that for us today, that regardless of what happened in your life, instead of staying home and grieving, you went out and said, "I'm going to do something for me for once." You go, girl. You go, girl. Well, I
Thanks.
want to let everybody know that next week we're going to have John Lawyer on. He is a vet who spent 11 years in Afghanistan without coming home. And this man is absolutely amazing. The love and what that man has gone through, and the groundedness and his awakening is mind blowing. He really moved me when I met him last week, and I'm really excited about coming on the show. And you can always reach me. Please, if you liked anything on the show today, if it meant anything to you, feel free to forward this on to your friends and family. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Kathleen M. Flanagan. And from my heart to yours, I hope you all have a fabulous week. See you then.
This has been the journey of an awakening spirit with your host, Kathleen Flanagan. Join Kathleen each week as she will inspire and empower all those who are drawn to her to live their highest vision in the context of love and joy. Right here Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.